gives her bride, but obviously this is symbolic, mystical language. The bride is the church, it's us, to His Son Jesus Christ in this perfect divine union. So that gets fulfilled. But that's how Genesis 1 begins, and it's how, in many ways, it happens in the Gospels, wedding at Cana, and Revelation ends with the wedding supper of the Lamb. And it ends, the Bible ends with the Spirit and the bride saying, come. Come, enter into that promise of the Father, to give creatures, us, as bride, as bride corporately to His only begotten Son, so that by becoming one with the Lord and the Spirit, we enter into the life of the Trinity. So the Trinity is the central hope and defining theme. And the icon, now the icon, of course, Adam is an icon of God, but he who is truly, perfectly, absolutely, and I would say in a unique way, the icon of the invisible God is only begotten Word, Jesus Christ. So we find that in Colossians 1:15. I think that's at least one text we should cite tonight. Colossians 1:15. Because that will explain then iconography to an extent, at least a theology of icons. Right. So Colossians. Now let me just read Hebrews chapter 1 because time flies, and we can eat what we can eat after I'm done here. But so Hebrews chapter 1, I think is a great chapter. God. When we say God absolutely, in the New Testament it means the Father. So God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in the past to our ancestors, to the Hebrews, by the prophets, or through the prophets is better, has in these last days spoken to us by His Son, whom He has appointed heir of all things, through whom also He created the ages. So time was created through the instrument of the Logos. Who, being the brightness of His glory and the express image of His person, and upholding all things by the happening of His power, when He had Himself purged our sins, sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, having become so much better than the angels, because He has human nature, and has by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. For to which of the angels did God ever say, "You are my Son, today I have begotten you"? And again, "I will be to him a father, and he shall be to me a son"? But when He again brings the firstborn into the world, He says that all the angels of God worship Him. Okay, so that's for that Hebrews chapter 1. And Colossians 1, and you can see that even in that short reading, is trying to contain both the eternality of Christ as being always with the Father, sustaining creation, so that's the divine nature of Christ, but also the fact that He became man, and therefore has a true human life from birth to death to exaltation. Colossians 1:15, He, that is His Son, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by Him, I would say through Him, is dia in Greek, for through Him all things were created that are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones, dominions, principalities, or powers. All things were created through Him and for Him. So the Father gives all of creation as a wedding gift to His Son, basically. And that creation is the bride. Now, to finish then, it seems to me, I think it's consistent throughout the Scriptures, that there is a sense in which God the Father, being unoriginate, is utterly transcendent. I think there's a real transcendence of the Father that is beyond or in an unapproachable light. I sometimes say beyond unapproachable. Actually, it's in unapproachable light, unapproachable by us. So how do we approach the unoriginate Father? Through his icon. So when the apostles ask, show us the Father, you have seen me, Philip, you have seen the Father. No one comes to the Father except through me. In other words, all of our worship, knowledge of God the Father is ultimately channeled, to use that term, directed to him, but through his icon. Right? So Christians engage in icon worship, the icon being the only begotten Son, the icon of the invisible God. So whether we have actual images, you cannot not have a theology of icons and make any sense of the Scriptures. So so the icon really is a teaching tool for us, that the access to God the Father is accomplished through his eternal and perfect icon, Jesus Christ. Right. So that's for now, for session 1. Any questions, comments, criticisms, disputes?
I have one. Could you clarify how the Jews view God? Because I thought Christians basically, except for...
So modern day Judaism, modern day Jews are different than older day Jews. So today Jews view God as being a monad, a single person, single being, the way Muslims do. Right? I would argue that in older times, Old Testament times, that there was a sense in which there was plurality in the one Godhead. The Jewish Shema, hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one, right? Echad, one. I think it really refers to a oneness, but there's a lot of hints in the Scriptures, but also in the I think all Jewish religion, that they perceive there to be. Even they talked about sometimes two powers in heaven. There's a whole book called Two Powers in Heaven by a Jewish author. And they perceive there to be, in a way, the God who is the El Elyon, the Most High God, or the God of Melchizedek. But also a sense in which there were divine manifestations. For example, in Genesis, the Lord sends fire from the Lord to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. There's a sense of of course, the image we have of the three angels coming to see Abraham. But the three angels, they can all represent the Lord. Right? Or the angels, or the signs that there's plurality. Let us, plural, create man. So there were signs, I think the Jews did perceive, that there was a plurality in that unity of God.
I heard somebody say that with the ancient times' tendency towards polytheism, if God had revealed his Trinitarian essence back then, it would have led to excesses.
Could be. Okay. Then we can do our pizza break as a reward.